Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to The Well, your source for the latest in the field of after school and summer learning programs. Today, we have a very special guest with us with Rodrigo Arancibia. He is the after school program lead for the Sweetwater Union School District. Hey, what's up, Rodrigo?
What's up, Bruno? How you doing, man?
Good,
Thanks for having me
man.
on.
Hey, so what's good with you right now?
So I'm on spring break, so that's always good. But so got a little chance to decompress. But we had some programs going on in our ACES programs in middle schools, um, and just trying to grind out the rest of the year and prepping for Boost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're all getting ready for the Boost
Mhm.
conference for sure. So how'd you get started in the field of after school? That's the one question that everybody always asks me. How'd you get started?
That's a good one, man. I think I really do have to credit my brother, my older brother Diego. Diego hooked me up. Right out of college, I started working at Gomper Secondary School as in the after school program, right through the YMCA, and that taught me a lot, man. That taught me a lot. Just working with students and you know tutoring students and doing all that stuff. But I think more than anything, it was about building relationships. I mean, I remember um, as I went into college, I was thinking I was going to be a like a sports doctor or a physical therapist, and then started working at Gompers, and I taught a seventh grade student how to read.
Mm,
that was
yeah,
kind of that was kind
yeah.
of a transformational experience for me, man. Kid had just come over from a different country. He was really struggling, and got to have this little emotional connection with them, and the rest is history, you
Yeah.
know. And so I really kind of transferred over some of my units from being an athletic trainer to teaching PE, which was which was actually a godsend, man, because I learned so much about pedagogy and about preparing to teach 50, 60 kids,
Yep. Yep.
that when it came to running an after school program, it was a no-brainer. And then, I mean, I didn't never taught PE. I ended
Yeah.
up teaching science, and so that ended up being, even for me at least, easier because I had all this background on classroom management and having fun and doing that stuff. When I came into the classroom, it was a no-brainer. But again, starting with Gompers, and it's cool, man. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have had the experience of working in after school since 2001,
Yep.
and every step of the way in my education, I had um, the after school lens to see it through.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw after school as the practitioner, as the program leader, as the site lead. And then when I became a coordinator or director or whatever, of running multiple programs, you see that. And then as a teacher, you start to see from the other side what
Right.
after school can be doing, and what's the pedagogical piece of how to be a teacher. But again, as I was getting my teaching credential, it was always through that lens of after school. And then when I got my admin credential at San Diego State, classically trained to become a principal or whatever,
Right.
again, it was still through that same lens, and
Yeah.
it prepared me so much. I remember having conversations in my admin program. I was like, yeah, man, we manage adults.
Right.
This is like,
Right.
that was a big thing for people. Like they didn't know how to manage adults, and I think after school we got to do that on a daily basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, man. What people may not know out there in the field is that with our N1 crew, we call you the professor. You're always with a book in hand. You're always with a podcast on the headphones. You're always, just learning and absorbing. So, what is your take on research-based instructional practices?
It's
Want to hear it
that's
from the professor.
that's funny, man. Because if we're talking about Dewey or Marzano or all these other pedagogical things, I think in the context that we were talking about or I wrote about, none of that stuff really matters if you can't connect with kids.
Mm,
And so What did I read? So we were having this discussion yesterday. I was at a conference the last 2 days called Deeper Learning at High Tech High, and it was awesome, man. Just a real deep dive into some really amazing topics.
Yeah.
And again, culture eats strategy for lunch. And so if you can't build a relationship with students, if you can't build connections with students, they don't give a flying F about, science or nucleotides or anything, right? They just
Yep.
that stuff's in one ear, out the other. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of this place. And
Yeah.
so my strong belief is that there's really our energy and our effort shouldn't be so much on instructional practices as it is about building relationships. And that's just for as a teacher, like or a teacher leader, if I were to be at the school site leading a group of teachers, or as an after school practitioner. I mean, I think that's principle number one is build relationships with kids. And my after school sensei Ray Trinidad would always say, like, kids come for the program, but they stay for the staff.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you have to kind of keep in mind. You know what I mean?
Man, and we got some kids that are coming in hungry, they're coming in scared, they feel bullied at school, they may not have the support systems. So, some kids even over there where you're at, they're crossing the border just to get to school.
No, we have a couple schools that actually a lot of students make the daily commute there and back. We have students, especially on the breaks. That's why it was difficult for us to run some supplemental programs at some schools, because a lot of students would go, stay across, stay in Mexico, and so again, if we don't know those stories and we don't know if we don't have that relationship with students to understand what's going on at home or what's going on in their community, like, their instructional practices really don't mean anything.
Right.
And because you're just giving this, it's like it's like a used car salesman, man. Like, I sold them the car, but they didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and that's,
for sure.
That's not what we're looking for. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, so in terms of the term, the flavor of the month, of the flavor of the next 5 years, right now, we had STEM,
right?
Youth development's been thrown around.
Right.
Now is social and emotional learning.
Right.
So what's your take on utilizing local control funding formula dollars to leverage the impact of the extended learning field or after school and summer learning programs, for outcomes for the school day?
Right. Again, I think this is something that we've been having conversations of ad nauseum about, like, where are we going to get more money, and are we going to get more money? Is there going to be a increase in the reimbursement rate for ACEs? And I have a real difficult time with accepting that we need to go to our senators and ask for more money for a reimbursement hike. I have a difficult time with that, and part of the reason is that California already spends 3 times as much as every other state combined. There's money there. I think what we don't do a very good job of in the field is communicating our narrative, and communicating our narrative to the individuals who actually have the decision-making ability to funnel dollars. And so let me give you an example. I wrote about this a little while ago. At the site level, and at least in our district, and I know it's different in different districts, but again, we need to have those conversations with superintendents and or principals. So in our district, we've given a portion of the LCFF dollars to the school site to manage, right? So the principals have the autonomy to fund whatever they want to do, right, as long as it's written in their LCAP plan, and they're using something to show some sort of measurable outcome, right? And so what I've been able to do is communicate to the principals, listen, this is a viable option to fund someone to be overseeing your after school program, in addition to the ACEs, in addition to the ACEs dollars, right? And so what that's done is it's freed up more money in the operating budget for the school site.
Right.
And it's put more responsibility into one person to actually oversee everything. And so that's been a very big shift for us because and I think every school site's going to seize this in their as the responsibilities get divvied out. If you pair up after school with, a point two of teaching math or something,
right?
What the tendency is for the school site administrator and the school site personnel is after school is going to become a secondary issue for whatever reason, and we don't. That's like there's not the venue to have that conversation on why, but it just gets pushed to the side,
right?
And so what my battle cry was like, this person needs to be full-time released. This person needs to be focusing solely on after-school dollars or solely on supporting students after school.
Right.
Excuse me. And so what does that look like? But that was the big piece for us was just like, okay, listen, principals, you can fund this person out of this funding source as long as they're doing X, Y, Z.
Right.
And so that's been a very interesting piece for us because again we haven't seen that.
So how receptive have they been, and what is the return on investment then?
So I think it's been pretty. I mean, for the school sites, again, rolling this out, principals have a natural hesitation to because they're unfamiliar with things, right? And I've been very kind of cautious about how we have discussions with individuals, and I think if we switch the narrative and switch the question from how do we serve 150 kids with $150,000 to how do we support as many students after school voluntarily? If you flip that question, you're going to get the responses that you get for the second question automatically are going to force you to go, oh, we need more money.
Right.
Where's the money going to come from?
Right.
And at the school site, you can leverage Title I dollars, you can leverage LCFF dollars, and those are two pots of money that typically in the past we haven't been able to see.
Right.
But the return on investment is going to be like that conversation that we had with the instructional based practices. I think what you're going to see is relationships being built with students and teachers that are going to be super strong, and they're going to be different relationships. Now you have here's Mr. Marchesi who was teaching biology, but he's also a DJ instructor.
Right.
That's kind of a different. Okay, so now you get to see the teacher in a different lens, and the teacher gets to see the student in a different lens.
Right.
And so the next step again in that genealogy of workflow is really kind of documenting the impact, which I don't know that we've done a very great job of doing it, and I think what we're gonna be seeing in the next couple months or years, I would say months, that there's going to be a battle cry for like, okay, so let's measure the impact a little bit better. Let's craft the narrative a little bit stronger so that we can communicate our story that we all know is true, and that's after school works. But for the naysayers and for the non-believers, they need to see it. But I think they're gonna. It's the return on investments. It's huge. It's absolutely paramount.
So check this out. So my phone's been blowing up the last couple of weeks about. So Bruno, how do I create these talking points? How do I figure this out, right? And the first question that I just hit back is, why is it that you've been tweeting about your program just in the last 3 weeks, or just since the last proposed budget was put out there? Why weren't we putting out things on social media year round? Why weren't we having meetings with the principal during the entire year? When is the last time you showed up to your school board meeting, right? And particularly at the very, very local level, what we need to, I think, understand is that all of our site coordinators are local experts at their school site, right? So taking advantage of those opportunities to create champions with our parents and our families every day during sign out, or through every newsletter, or through every opportunity at a family night, not just when a proposed budget comes out or when people feel the heat of other people are tweeting, should I do something about it as well? What's your take on having 4,500 narratives about how after school and summer learning works rather than one collective voice?
I think like you hit on the head that there's 45 different experts at the local level for that school. And I think if all that needs to happen, and actually Marcus brother and I were having this conversation via text after I sent an article. I want to say it was about we need to stop creating awareness and start doing stuff, basically, right? And so I think if what's most important is for us to communicate our story and the story of our impact. That's going to be universal across the board. And I think everybody who's worked in the field has had the story of like, yo, after school literally saved his life. After school changed this kid's life. If it weren't for the program that we ran, he would probably be dead.
Yep,
or homeless, real. That's real. Absolutely, that's not me being facetious. That's a real statement. So what we need to do at the local level is have people share those stories of impact.
Yep.
And again, like how they get to the end is how they get to the end. It's not my concern. You just need to get to the meeting and sit at the table and then have that. Listen, I just want to share with you. This is the story of the impact of after school.
Yep.
Pepito did X, Y, Z, this, that, the other, and then he started showing up. Like I remember the story that you shared with me about the student who you worked with, who I want to say that he stole your. He
stole my car alarm.
He stole your car alarm. Yeah, man. So refresh my memory on that.
And he stole my car alarm because he didn't want to be in the program. And you know what? That's STEM, right? So the answer back was, hey man, since you're good at this, let's create a project. Can I do it with you? Right. Not let's kick you out of the program because you did this, right? And he went on to do very successful things. And I think that's really the story of after school, not just the students, but a lot of us.
Yeah.
That someone gave us a chance, right? Someone gave us a chance and some of us excelled, right? Yeah. So Rodrigo, I guess the question that I have, in lately, a lot of people have been asking me, I keep thinking about it's the collective impact, right? Through all of these narratives. We need to really change the narrative through storytelling. So I always hear you say, we in after school are the ethnographers of what's going on in the neighborhoods. So tell me about that.
So being ethnographer, so that goes back to a little bit of a human-centered design and design thinking. If there's a book that I encourage people to go check out, it would be Creative Confidence by Tom Kelly from the IDEO group in San Francisco. And so design thinking is really the basic principle of design thinking is developing a human-centered framework to provide products, services, or programs, right? And so the very, very first block of that framework is developing empathy for your end user, whoever that might be. It could be students, it could be teachers, whoever you're providing the service for.
Yeah, or we need to define our community, right? And who that is.
Correct. And again, you're going to go through different framework, or you're going to go through the same framework, but you're going to go through different lenses to identify what people need, right? So if I'm trying to build a program for students, and I don't involve students in the development of that program, it doesn't make sense, right? So when we talk about being ethnographers comes from what ethnographers do is they capture stories, and they capture stories of people that they're watching, right? And so they become part of the the community in which they want to research.
Yeah.
Right. And so what you do for developing empathy is really not just talking to students and finding their stories, but watching students, and not in that creepy way, but watching what they do and seeing how they react and what are the trends and what are their needs. And really documenting that. And I don't think we do it kind of unconsciously, but we're not intentional about it. I think the moment we start to become more intentional about it, you're going to see our programs become exponentially better. And the reason that is because now it's not like someone playing darts blindfolded in the dark, right? Like, I think the kids are going to like football.
Right.
We're just offer it. No, the kids really want to DJ. And this is how many kids want to DJ. This is how many kids signed up. They said that they want to do this. They go to a community center that hosts a breakdancing competition every week. It's like, you don't know that unless you start asking kids and start getting into the community. And so that's what we need to do a better job of. And that's the ethnography, the being ethnographers is really about capturing stories and capturing behaviors that might not be overt. I think the very surface level of what we do is collecting surveys. But surveys are very tough, man, because even with surveys, it could be students just telling you what they think they want to hear. You want to hear, right? And so it's like, I think I want to do this because they want me to be doing homework, right? And so, no, you have to get in there and talk to them and really kind of break down that barrier, build a relationship again, and
it always goes back to building relationships.
It does, dude. It does. It's so we sound like broken records, but it's so fundamental.
Hey, Rodrigo, so when I go out to sites, people jam me up, especially when they see somebody who has gone through the ranks, has grown up in the field, and in a particular set of eyes, they feel somebody has made it. Whatever that may mean, right?
Whatever,
and what they ask me is, so you grew up in the ranks, right? You grew up in after school, and now you're an administrator. How do you stay real? How do you not sell out? It's what they ask me at site. And I always have to think twice about how I answer that. And people come and tell me, so I want to do that, but I'm a t-shirt type of guy. So how do I stay true to how I grew up in after school and bring that to the administration level? How do you do it? How do you stay real?
Well, first of all, remember, I'm a teacher on special assignment, so it's not like I'm a fully management or whatever. But I think it's a very fine line to walk. We've known each other for a while now, and I'm not a very so I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. I'm not a very like traditional type of I'm not rolling into work with a suit and tie all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I think part of that is because I'm at the sites, and when I'm at the sites, I like to be comfortable rolling around, checking them out, and I can't run from one place to another or be as mobile if I'm rocking my wingtips. And so there's that piece.
You can't play kickball with your wingtips.
You know what I'm saying? I had a coworker back in the day who we were playing basketball. This dude rolled out there. He was tutoring, wearing some white jeans and some white Aldo shoes. And I was like, bruh, that's not fresh. He goes, yeah, it beat up my biscuits, man. I was laughing. But I just couldn't do that, man. I just couldn't do that. So but I mean, in terms of just not losing touch, I think what the propensity happens, what happens to people in our positions is the moment we start to sever our ties with kids, we start to become irrelevant. And so the goal for me is always when I go to a site, is to connect with as many kids as possible. And really listen to them and really talk to them and say, hey, what do you like about this? What do you not like about that? How can we make this better? Are they listening to you? Blah, 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 blah. That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me the ability to kind of, okay, well, have a different conversation with the coordinators or the lead,
Yeah.
And so I think that's those kind of conversations that I have are fun for me because I think one of my particular strengths is, strategic and being creative. And so how do we meet some of the needs of these kids in a different way?
Yeah.
Or how do we leverage, other dollars to get the things that the kids want to do some cool stuff?
Yeah.
So I think it's about being at the site.
It is about being to the site and staying grounded. So what I always tell our fellow site coordinators is you got to stay hungry, humble, focused, right?
Yep.
And if those are some of the keys to success here in the field as we make our way through different job titles, or perhaps what changes is the potential impact that you can have on a community.
Right.
The mission doesn't change.
It never changes. The mission never changes. It's all about fighting crime and saving lives. And I think one thing I would add to that, hungry, humble, and focused, is we have to be able to push ourselves to learn different things. And once you're done with college, it's not the ending of your education. You are personally responsible for your professional development, and
to give it back.
I agree. I think what sucks is, and I think I didn't really start. I've always been just anxious to get more information, so we started, Diego and I, when we were in after school in 2001, we would always read Harvard Business Review, just subscribers. And because we've always felt like after school is a business. Every time a kid comes in, they are, without you knowing, without them knowing, they're giving you $7.50 to show up. And so where do you put in your investments? Where are you putting your dollars and stuff like that, right? So we've always read Harvard Business Review because we knew it was a sale was made on every conversation, right? Either you sell the kid on why they should be coming to the program, or they sell you on why they're not.
Guerrilla marketing, right?
Marketing. And so I think it's paramount for our field to kind of continue your own professional development and go out there, listen to podcasts, read far-ranging things, different domains, because you're gonna make connections. I think I read a great description of what innovation is, and innovation is taking a very conventional idea, one conventional idea and another conventional idea, and then finding a new connection between the two. And that's how, we're not doing any rocket science here when we talk about doing a DJ in a STEM, or, that's not rocket science. It's just stuff we've done. We're just developing new connections.
Yeah, because people keep saying, when I used to run after school programs 20 years ago, and I'm talking about what'd you do last week.
Yep. Be relevant, man. Relevant.
You got to be and stay relevant. So I think the last piece of advice I would give site coordinators is surround yourself with dreamers and people who get stuff done.
Yep.
Because we can talk about this all day long, but at the end of the day is, how do we take an idea from a napkin and make it happen at the local level, right? And not wait for somebody else to save anything, but how can we all contribute to that pot, right? So, Rodrigo, man, always a pleasure to chat with you. So if people want to get a hold of you, how can they hit you up? Through your blog, through Twitter?
Yeah, best way to follow me is on Twitter, Mr. @Mr_AYYY. So Mr. A.
Hey, we'll put that on the description below.
Perfect, man. And then we're writing. I've been taking up, I think, again, one thing that I've been trying to push all of our collective team, is to write more. Yeah. And so I've been writing for about a year, just intermittently. So on the blog, arancibia.org /Rodrigo. You can check that stuff out. A lot of it's about organizational transformation, after school programs, and just being disruptors. You know, I think that's my little niche, if you want, if you think of it like that. But
Yep.
yeah, just hit me up on those two. Always Rodrigo at arancibia.org. Hit me up on email. Yeah,
And,
man, I'm here to serve
and
everybody.
we'll put all those links in the description below. But again, man, thanks a lot for all that you do on the field, for keeping us grounded, for keeping us wanting to learn. So
I
thank you
appreciate
for
that,
that.
man.
I
Thank you,
appreciate that,
Bruno.
man.
Thank you, Bruno, for doing the well. I think you've been a source of inspiration for a lot of us, especially the younger cats. But for sure, man, I appreciate you and the work that you're doing, man.
Thanks, man. So until next time.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, man.
Peace.
Thanks.